In this video we're going to talk about how to set up an Ecobee Premium to work with the Bosch IDS 2.1 heat pump and fossil fuel system. This would apply to all of the other Bosch configurations with a few nuances that we'll try to talk about. But one thing is, before you start changing any set points or setting up a thermostat, you need to think about what you're doing and what the consequences might be. So you would not want to make a mistake and leave your home and come back with all the pipes frozen and broken. So be very cognizant of that. Or if you've got an older person in the home, you don't want to overheat the house by accident either. So once again, you really need to understand what you're doing, and you're taking full responsibility of the outcome of what happens. I am not giving any warranty on this. I'm just sharing what I know and what I believe is to be right. But in the end, you're responsible for your own property. But getting that aside, so in this home here, I have a Bosch 96% furnace with a 80,000 BTU rating, and then a 4-ton coil with a 4/5-ton unit outdoors. And I've got the 2.1, which doesn't mean much other than the efficiency is a bit better. But to go into the settings, we'll just take a look at my computer first, just to show that I do have this running. My computer is in Celsius, which is shouldn't be a big deal. I've got another table I'm going to show you here in a second that helps you convert these values. But you can see that we're below freezing right now. So freezing is the 0 here. And we've been down to -10. I would say that the outdoor Ecobee temperature is off by a couple degrees compared to what my vehicles are saying from my experience. And you can see here that I've run all 4 stages of heat. And basically what happened here was that I was doing some testing on the furnace, trying to set up the humidifier, which we'll talk about later on. And what you'll see is that when you reset the furnace, it's going to come on and go through the stages pretty quickly. So you can see it went through the first stage and second stage of the heat pump. Then it went to the gas furnace relatively quickly. And then it's kind of watching how it's performing, and it springs into action and goes into the stage 2. I'm going to do another video on the performance of the Bosch system, but overall I feel that it's okay. But we do need to look at some numbers here as part of this discussion. So from the brochure, you can see that the heat from the heat pump is about 35,000 BTU. The ratings and numbers are kind of funny. This is out of the brochure. This is from NEEP over here. And then this is some more brochure information and some real life information. So you can kind of see the stages, right? So for heat pump, then gas and gas, you're working your way through. So this second stage of gas is going to be far more than the first stage of heat. And especially if it's cold out, you're only going to be getting like 21,000 BTU when you're down to -4, -20 kind of temperatures. And then to look at some numbers here. So the set point here, that's important. We're going to set that when we set up the Ecobee. Then we're going to set up this temperature here. And that's a default, which is wrong for our application. You don't want it to be set up like that. And you're going to set this value here. This value is built into the Ecobee thermostat, so it will not let your home go below 41 or 5 degrees. I don't know if it overrides this number here. So if your heat pump was broken, if someone ran into it with their car, because it could be in your driveway, you'd want to, in my opinion, set your aux heat to the same temperature so that it can perform whether it's going to be electric heating or a gas unit. Room temperature, in my opinion, 23 is a good number. And there's some more numbers here. And then finally, water boils at a 212 or 100. And here, oh great, we're running into trouble. This is really what you need to do. This was written by someone at Bosch. I got this from the Johnstone Cafferty website. So basically, here's what you need to do to make the furnace run like it was running off of a Bosch thermostat. So you got to turn off all the intelligence on the Bosch or on the Ecobee. So you turn off the Eco Plus, you turn off Follow Me. It'll still average using the temperature sensors that you want to use. Then you want to turn off the heat and cooling recovery, which is going to try to hit your set point by starting early. You don't want that. You want it. We're going to turn off any sort of time of day type stuff. You're just going to set your thermostat to one number and hold it permanently. And staging is going to be manual. So sorry, it's going to take a little bit to get to everything here. So you can see in my home, I have got 4 thermostats. That is like the actual thermostat on the ground floor. That's a second floor bedroom, garage, and crawl space. So the ones that are in white, they are actually participating in the temperature scheme that I'm working with. This is supposed to be off. We'll go into that in a minute. Follow Me is disabled. Eco Plus is somewhere else in here. This is a more simplified screen, but it's helpful because when you click on here, it tells you what stage of heating that you're on. Here I have it as a band heat cool 2326. You could leave it in heat. You could put it in aux and force your fossil or electric heat if you wanted to. And when you're done making all these changes, you should be going and running each of these depending on the outdoor temperature and verifying that they all work. Because you're probably setting this up in the summer. Hopefully you didn't have a furnace fail in the middle of winter. And you want to make sure everything works at that point, because you don't want to forget about it and then damage your home somehow later on. So Eco Plus, you go in here, you disable it indefinitely. Really that's all you need to do in here. And when you're setting up the thermostat, yeah, you just feel static as I touch this because I got the humidity is too low right now. That's a problem I'm trying to deal with. You're going to go into here. I'm not going to do a full restart of the thermostat, but you go into settings, installation settings, equipment. We can go into reconfigure equipment. There's no real harm in this. You save most of your settings when you do this, and it's probably the best place to make some of these changes. It takes a couple of minutes for whatever it's doing. So you're going to say you're a homeowner. We'll pull this off and we'll look in the furnace later at the wiring. It identifies which wires are connected. If you found that this was wrong for some reason, you could go no and you could modify it. But in this case, you need everything here. So like G is fan, and the W's or the Y's, ones are the compressor and one is the fossil unit. And OB is switching back and forth between heating and cooling on the compressor. So we're going to be happy with that. I'm going to go all the way back, sorry. Just take a second for this to go through its deal again. This will be a bit of a longer video, but I feel that it's kind of important to get this. So RC, I have a 10 conductor cable behind here. I didn't use the PEC Plus, which is like makes an extra wire somehow. I'm not using that. I do have a humidifier on here. I found that was the hardest thing to actually set up. So for this, I'm in Celsius. I'm air to air for my heat pump, which would be the IDS. So the reversing valve is energized on heat. I think it comes up the wrong way initially, but so you're going to pick heat, and next, do you want them to run simultaneously? This is very important. If you have a fossil unit that burns natural gas, you put that on disable, because the way the lineup is, you've got your furnace is blowing into the A coil and then into your home. So you wouldn't want your heat pump and your furnace running at the same time, because you would be pumping heat into your A coil when your A coil is trying to expel heat into the air, and it would damage it. So as you can see right here, it tells you to set to disable if you're burning gas. And so you go to next there. This number is wrong. I'm going to set it to -15. It's capable of going a bit further, but financially I don't think that would make sense. So it's capable of going down to -20 or -4 on here, but I don't want to push it to the limit for the outdoor unit. So I just arbitrarily picked -15. That may not be a good financial decision. It might be better to have it at like -10, like something warmer. But we're going to go with this for a while, and I'll have another video out talking about the performance of the system. So this is a furnace, and I guess this is kind of part of the control algorithm depending on where your heat sources are coming from. This, you want the air handler to run your fan, so that's the same as the Bosch system. In here, I should have picked steam. So steam and evaporative are the both humidifier styles. When you set it to steam, it allows the humidifier to run when you're just on fan. And I have hot water going into my humidifier, so it'll work on steam. If you've got cold water, they don't recommend that for this system with a heat pump. You would set it to evaporative, unless you did have a steam humidifier. I have just a water panel humidifier, but like I said, with the hot water, it's okay to set it to steam. So then it ends up telling you what you've got. So for wiring, it's going to give you the wires. It was able to sense the ACC plus and minus are connected. And the rest is all good. I really recommend running a 10 conductor wire for this thermostat. You don't want to run one of those PEC Plus things. And for humidifier, you got steam, minimum runtime delta. I'm not sure what that means. It might tell us. It will run beyond the humidity by 5%. If you're fogging your windows up, you can change that. And then in my home, I know the windows are not very good, so I've got it turned down pretty low. And so here we're telling us the indoor humidity is 21 at -11, 28. I think that's a better number there. I'm going to see if I can get away with 4, but if my windows are all fogging up, I'll have to make a change. So that's nice that you know what the desired point is for that. So we're good in here. Then we are going to go in, not settings, But so Eco Plus is disabled. Comfort settings. You don't use home sleep or away. I just made home heating and home cooling as new ones. Preferences. So you've got your heating range, cooling range. They're not overly important. I think it'll take over and heat your house to 5 degrees Celsius anyway. But you do need to turn off the heat recovery and cooling recovery. These are automatically enabled. So you'll turn both of those off. And when you go into settings, we're going to go into installation settings, thresholds, and here most of these things configure staging manually, as we had talked about. The aux, max outdoor temperature. I thought I had set that to 5 degrees. So I'm going to put that back. It's capable of doing it to 5. So I think you have to just wait for this to clear. Sometimes you got to wait. Sometimes you got to back out of the number. Like you think you could, sometimes you can just tap it. Like when you set the temperature and tap it, it saves it. Okay, so in that case it didn't. Outdoor temperature minus 15. You don't want any overcooling. I didn't change the differentials here. Aux min on time. So I think that's just to prevent short cycling of various things. Sometimes it gives an explanation of what it means. These are on auto. So if it's losing control of the temperature, it'll hop into it. Thermal protect. If you've got multiple thermostats and one of them is like haywire, it could ignore it. But in this case, we don't have to do that. So I think looking here, we've done everything we were supposed to do. Eco Plus, heat recovery, follow me. Just a second, I feel like I might have lost one of my settings here. Yeah, staging, switch to manual. Somehow I ended up removing that. If I can recover it. But yeah, staging set to manual right here. So that's the 4 things that you have to do. And from my experience, the system is working fine. When I haven't had any problems, other than when I switched from summer to winter. I did need to adjust some of the dampers in the basement, because when you're heating your home, you want the heat to be kind of down low in a 2-story home, and it'll rise to the top. But when you're trying to cool, you're trying to push your cold air as far as you can uphill to the 2nd floor, and then it will naturally fall downhill. So that's sort of what you need to do. And yeah, so that's sort of the settings. We're at just about 19 minutes now. So we'll just take a quick look at the wiring. That's for my tankless hot water heater. Here you can see I've used all the wiring colors that were in the Bosch manual, and I used the 10 conductor wire that I purchased and recommend. Has all the correct colors for it. So you end up with a gray and an orange left over, which you can use on accessory, and that seems to work. And this thing is not too hard to get off the wall. My previous thermostat is afraid of breaking a thing, but this one's not too bad. So now I'll go downstairs and I'll open up the furnace and I'll show you the wiring there. Alright, so we're downstairs now. So for my humidifier, I have an Aprilaire 700. So this is like a fan type humidifier that blows the moist air back into the ductwork. I would say that the mounting position that I put this in may not have been ideal because it's on an elbow coming out of the furnace, and it could have a bit too high of static pressure and blow water out of the furnace maybe. I'm still trying to figure out if that's an issue or not. But I was having water come out, but my evaporator pad's got a couple years in it, so it's kind of dirty and the water's kind of falling out. But anyway, the point being is you got two wires here and they need to get 28 volts across them to get the water flowing and also get the fan going. And I've got hot water going into here, and it's not using a lot of water. But so anyway, we're not really trying to review the furnace perhaps, but I am trying to explain how it's set up in this case to work correctly. And again, so this is the inside of the gas burner side of the machine. It's kind of neat that it's got the viewing window in here for the water. We'll talk about this later when it gets a bit colder and more miserable, because I really want to get some good running experience with the furnace heat pump before we go much further into that side of the world. But here's the wiring. So you can't get into this cabinet without it disabling the furnace. This switch here turns off the power to your thermostat, and in here for your 120 volt. So basically, like I said, I used the wiring diagram in the manual, which I'll show you in a second, and the colors all worked out with this 10 conductor cable. See if I can show you the jacket. So it is Burton wire and cable. This is 18 gauge 10. Fantastic wire. This is, I believe it's plenum rated, even CL2P. Yeah, so it's good for plenum. So you're inside the plenum right here, so that's important that you've got leave a wire. If it catches on fire, it's not supposed to poison your home. So anyway, 10 conductor. The blue from the stat passes through and goes out to your heat pump, and so you need like a 5 or a 6 conductor going out to your heat pump, and then the 10 conductor inside the house. With this goofy wire here that they sell in Canada, this 5 conductor, it's got the wrong colors in it, so I should have just ran the Burton wire out to the heat pump as well, then the colors would have all matched. But anyway, what you're seeing here is the accessory wire. So this is the humidifier. Like I said, this is the hardest thing for me to get to work. The manual for the Ecobee does not show like the internal schematics of how the thing works. They say it works with 1 wire or 2 wire, but I couldn't figure out the 1 wire configuration. So I'm just using 2 wire, where the Ecobee is just a contact, and I'm passing power through the humidifier from the R, which is like your positive 28 kinda, and then your common is your ground essentially. So we're using, like I said, the wires here. I've got a little sketch of how it works. But other than that, you just land the wires as you would expect. The Wagos are really nice for this. You can pop them off. You can use a multimeter. You can back probe into them. There's a face probe hole in them as well. And if you got to disconnect something quick, that works out well. So you can see that's the wiring diagram for my humidifier with the ACC relay. So the orange and gray, it's like ACC plus and minus. And then the red is the power, and the common is the ground on the furnace. It's not really ground, it's AC, but anyway. That is how that works there. I left a little bit of wire for my future self if I need it in here. And looking in the manual for wiring, I went ahead and did the 4 heat, 2 cool, because you've got 2 heat with the heat pump, 2 heat with the fossil unit, and then 2 cool with the heat pump. And like it shows in here, the blue passes through. What? I don't know why it doesn't attach to the blue. There's no blue in the furnace. It's a funny way of showing it. But anyway, that's how we did it. So you've got the colors on the, according to this here, and the outdoor unit being 4 wires, so I got 1 extra wire. But there's no blue on the indoor unit. I'm trying to think. There's a schematic in here as well. And here they say to set the fan control to the appliance, the furnace. And we're dual fuel. If you had one of the resistive units, it wouldn't be dual fuel, and you would pick a little bit different wire setting. Or would you? No, you still have aux heat, so it's the same thing. It's just that in that case, it's all kind of backwards. So your electric heat comes after the A coil, which isn't a big deal. So 4 and 2, yeah, right. So this one is better. You should look in the Bosch 96 manual. It's better for the wiring. So the OB passes through and it's energized on heat. So that kind of explains how well that works. And I think that that's all there is to it to set up the Ecobee. So it's not like back in the day where you just had to connect 2 wires together to heat your home. Like this will do it, but not in a very graceful way. So you need a lot of conductors to make it work, and the settings to make it effective and prevent your home from freezing or overheating. There are some dip switches in here that they tell you to set. But that's, I don't think there was anything that needed to be done in there. That's just for setting your fan speeds. And that's sort of for the Bosch IDS review, not for the Ecobee review. So hopefully you found this informative. I hope you have a great heating season and cooling season for your home, and thank you for watching. Alright, so as with any of my videos, I always forget to say something really important, and I always want to come back. So again, we're making these changes in the configuration here to do a couple of things. One is to make sure you're not running the equipment outside of its acceptable range. And the other part is you're trying to make the Bosch heat pump be in control, where it will try to run 1 run per hour. And as the temperature gets hot in the summer or cold in the winter, it is going to run continuously, and that's okay. So I'll have another video out in a month looking at utility bills and stuff like that. But basically, you're going to end up seeing, like on the website, that the stage 1 heat is going to run for long periods of time. It'll turn off briefly and see how things are going, and then it'll run some more. And with that temperature, we were like down to -8, so it was actually running the second stage almost continuously. And then being it's an inverter, it can run harder. Like even if you're stage 1 or stage 2, there's not like a set heating output for that. It'll run as required. And then if it loses all control and the temperature keeps dipping, it will run into the aux heat, This is from me turning the thermostat on and off. It's not because it lost temperature control, but that's basically what's going to happen. So I've been down to -10 Celsius, whatever that is in Fahrenheit. And in my home, with this system, the heat pump is going to be undersized no matter what, because it's going to be like half the capacity of what your furnace normally would have been. And it'll run, but it'll run continuously, and it'll make the home relatively nice. And like with this, I've got the two thermostats that are running, and it's going to take an average. I had the heat off for a while, so we lost temperature, so it's going to run to try and catch up. But you want to set your registers so that you can try to keep these temperatures on the different floors as close as possible. And I might actually put in some a seasonal summer-winter switch and vary the vents automatically depending on that. So here it's going to stage 2 heat right now, and it'll probably hop up to stage 2 aux after a couple minutes. But when it's running at night or whenever, it'll run the stage 2 heat for a long period of time. It's not going to jump to aux. It's just that when you power cycle the thermostat, it's going to do some funny things because it doesn't know what's going on or doesn't want your house to get too cold. So it kind of takes charge. And something that just came out recently are these reports. It'll give you runtime and stuff. It's really just a bunch of garbage in my opinion, because it's going to compare you across your whole province or state. And for me, Ontario is massive. Ontario almost goes to the North Pole, and then it goes down past the northern parts of the US. So it's just it doesn't work very well. So, and if you're using a heat pump, your unit's going to be running off continuously, so it's going to give you like a bad report, even though you're saving money or breaking even and having an extra, more comfortable home. The last and most important part, again, is that you need to test everything after you do this. So you should go to heat, set the number up super high, go down and watch your furnace, make sure that it fires. You would do aux to run your furnace, your heat strips. Let's crank it up. Then you're going to go to heat, which will run your heat pump, and crank it up and make sure that your heat pump goes through the 2 stages, because you need to prove that the wires for your heat are both working and your reversing valve is set correctly. And again, with the aux, you want to make sure that your 2 stages of gas are working, or 2 stages of electric, or whatever it is that you've got. Make sure that that's working. And if it's feasible, you'll run your cool as well, which it's capable of doing that. So, but let's not get into that. But yeah, you can cool your home even though it's kind of cold outside. It's able to run, I think, below freezing. There's that table I had. I guess we can take a quick look. So the minimum cooling temperature, you can go down to -10. So if you're doing something industrial and you wanted to cool an electrical room and dump the heat outside in the winter, you could do that, but probably not going to use this kind of equipment to do that. It's possible though. So anyway, like I said, you got to make sure you test all these and they work, because you don't want to forget what you've done and have a problem a couple months down the road. So don't do this at 11 o'clock at night and then drink a bunch of beer and go to bed, because you might wake up confused and not know what to do. Do this like on a day off and start in the morning, and you work your way through it and make sure that it's all working correctly. And if you want to force something like the humidifier, you can go into settings, and that's the only real way to force the humidifier, to run when it's humid, you would go down here and hit on. That'll bump my solenoid and let water pass through my humidifier right now. And you go downstairs and you go and verify that it's working. Then you turn it off and you put it up. You can run your fan, you can run your heat pump, heating and cooling in here as well, but that doesn't prove that your everything is quite working right. So like I said, go through here and adjust things. I can't state it enough, because you need to have that right, or you could leave your home, go to work or go to bed, and come back to a disaster. So you don't want that to happen. So once again, another 8 minutes here. Sorry about that, but thanks for watching.